Welcome to State of the Offense. Today we will look into the wide receivers in the NFC North who have top 60 wide receiver ADPs to prepare you for your upcoming fantasy football drafts. Christian Watson started off poorly in his rookie year. The drop touchdown against Minnesota in the season opener plagued him for a while. Then in Week 10 against the Dallas Cowboys, Watson exploded for a 4-reception, 107-yard, 3-touchdown game. Watson continued playing well to the end of the year. In weeks 10 through 18, Watson scored 153 of his 176 fantasy points. With the changing of quarterbacks in Green Bay from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love, I don't expect any dip in Watson's potential in 2023. Jordan Love has plenty of reps with Watson since last year, and Watson's career high in receiving yardage came in a game with Jordan Love playing against Philadelphia. The Packers have invested plenty into the receiving core in the last 2 years. Besides Watson, Romeo Doubs and Jayden Reed have been drafted in the 4th and 2nd rounds. The Packers also added 2 rookie tight ends this year in the 2nd and 3rd round. Watson has the highest upside, though, and he has the most raw athletic potential of all the Packers' young receiving prospects. Watson is the biggest and fastest wide receiver on the team. His catch percentage was essentially the same as Romeo Doubs, so Watson is the clear alpha wide receiver in 2023 for Green Bay. In fantasy football, Watson's production for the whole year is pretty unnoticeable. A 13 points per game average for the year was only 28th in the NFL. If you dig a little further, you will notice in the last 8 games, Christian Watson averaged 19.1 points per game. Projected over the entire season, you're looking at an average between Jamar Chase's and A.J. Brown's. If you want another comparison, in his rookie year, Amon-Ra St. Brown caught fire the last 6 games of the year in 2021. St. Brown scored 153 of his 225 fantasy points in those 6 games. In St. Brown's 2nd season, he became a fantasy wide receiver 1. Watson has a similar situation going into this season, except Watson is a big play guy and Amon-Ra is a PPR monster. Christian Watson is getting drafted between the wide receiver 22 and 28 spots. His ADP is fairly wide as well. On ESPN, he gets drafted in the 5th round, and on Yahoo in the 7th round. I think that many drafters out there either haven't bought into Watson yet because of the 8-game sample of production and the unknown of Jordan Love. I look at the eye-popping athleticism and size of this guy, and I see his ceiling as being too good to pass up. Jordan Love produced well in his time on the field in 2022. Romeo Doubs, Jayden Reed, and Luke Musgrave are all talented players, but none of them have produced in the league like Watson already has. I believe that Watson is a league-winning type of wide receiver, like Amon-Ra St. Brown was in 2022. Christian Watson is my wide receiver 17 and my 40th player overall. With an ADP in the 60s, he can be had in the 5th round and outproduce his draft price. Christian Watson is the type of player who can bring home a championship for you if he is your wide receiver 2 this year. None of the other Green Bay wide receivers are getting drafted in the top 60. Romeo Doubs and Jayden Reed are 2 players you must be aware of if Jordan Love breaks out. Both Doubs and Reed have the talent to be on fantasy rosters with good quarterback production. The Chicago Bears were the worst team in the NFL last year. They were also last in passing. The front office made moves this offseason to improve the cast around quarterback Justin Fields. The Bears addressed every aspect of the roster except quarterback. Included in the offseason upgrades was a trade for DJ Moore from Carolina before the draft. Moore was a first-round pick, and he's flashed plenty of ability on the field. Last year, he graded as the 18th best wide receiver in the game, but his numbers were significantly lower due to terrible quarterback play by Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. Carolina's quarterbacks only completed 58.4% of their passes in 2022. Moore only caught 52.5% of his targets last year. This is a bit of concern for me in evaluating DJ Moore in 2023. The press has been gushing about the connection that DJ Moore and Justin Fields have established in the preseason. While Justin Fields is a prototype quarterback from a skills perspective, he only completed 60.4% of his passes last year. The design of the Bears' offense will have plenty to do with the production of DJ Moore this year. If there are a lot of air yards on Moore's targets from Fields, I expect DJ Moore week to week fantasy consistency wise to be low. He will make some big plays, but if you draft DJ Moore, you don't want Gabe Davis type production, you want Stephon Diggs type production. Can Moore be an effective PPR threat? Moore's career high in receptions was 93 in 2021. He had 163 targets that year, a 57% clip. Oddly, DJ Moore's best catch percentage in his career was his rookie year. Unfortunately for DJ Moore fans, he has caught a lower percentage of his targets every year of his career. Here is a breakdown of his career trend in catching his pass targets. If you want to say that Moore had a low catch percentage because of deep throws by inaccurate quarterbacks, you might be right, but his yards per catch has been up and down his whole career. DJ Moore's career high in receiving touchdowns was 7 last year. Prior to that, he averaged under 4 touchdowns per year. How much will DJ Moore benefit from having Justin Fields as his quarterback as opposed to the quarterbacks he had in Carolina? Were Fields' wide receivers in Chicago that bad? Justin Fields did not have his top receiver, Darnell Mooney, for 5 games last year, so Fields was throwing to backup players like Equanimeous St. Brown and Dante Pettis. If you look at the past production of DJ Moore and Justin Fields, you have to say that they will not be an elite combination. If you look at this situation simply from an athletic standpoint, they both can be good. After a terrific 2021, Darnell Mooney's situation was pretty disappointing. Mooney's season ended in week 12. Every statistical category for Mooney pretty much dropped, even though his quarterback was improving and he had less target competition with Allen Robinson in Los Angeles. One positive of Darnell Mooney's 2022 was the fact that he had a career high in catch percentage, with him catching 65.5% of his targeted passes. Mooney is not a deep threat like DJ Moore is, so his yards per catch for his career is much lower than DJ Moore's. In fantasy football, especially in PPR formats, possession receivers bring more consistency to your lineups from week to week. If Justin Fields is a lot better this year, which is the general feeling about him, Darnell Mooney may be the best beneficiary of this on the team. In fantasy football, DJ Moore was wide receiver 26 in total points and the wide receiver 38 in average points scored. He is getting drafted as the wide receiver 24 or wide receiver 25. DJ Moore's ADP is between the 55 and 57 spots. This is a late 5th round pick. I believe that DJ Moore will have a good year in Chicago overall, but I question his week-to-week reliability. I don't believe that the Bears will throw the ball enough to justify the thought that DJ Moore will play up to his talent level as a top 18 wide receiver. I can envision some weeks where Moore explodes for huge games with long touchdown receptions. I think that he will be an upgraded version of Gabe Davis, pretty much boom or bust. Because of this, I rate DJ Moore below his draft position as my wide receiver 27 and my player 64. If Moore's in your flex spot, you'll be okay. If he's your wide receiver 2, you will struggle with the boom or bust production you'll be getting. Darnell Mooney has an established chemistry with Justin Fields from 2021. If he's 100% healthy, everything around Mooney is better. Cole Kmet is turning into one of the better tight ends in the NFL. DJ Moore is now the number 1 wide receiver in Chicago. And Chase Claypool provides a big fast guy in the wide receiver group who should draw Mooney less physically capable cornerback matchups. Mooney was the wide receiver 76 in fantasy points scored and the wide receiver 60 in average points scored per game. I think that Darnell Mooney will bounce back and have a respectable year. With better matchups and Justin Fields' growth, Mooney has the potential to eventually be a flex starter on your fantasy team. Drafters are down on Mooney right now because of his 2022 drop and the arrival of DJ Moore. He is going as the wide receiver 52 on ESPN and the wide receiver 62 on Yahoo. His overall ADP is 124 on ESPN and he's barely getting drafted on Yahoo at pick 166. The 11th round is the earliest Mooney should be considered if you like him. He should be viewed as your number 4 or number 5 wide receiver on your fantasy team. I like Mooney as a surprise rebound type producer this year. He is my wide receiver 41 and my 97th player overall. I don't think that you should take him in the 9th round by any means, but if you get Mooney in the 11th round, you will be getting value in your draft. I'm not running away from DJ Moore, but I'm not getting him in drafts right now. While Moore is getting ranked and drafted pretty consistently across the board, I believe that his inconsistency on the field devalues him, especially in PPR formats. In best ball, DJ Moore is a lot more valuable because of his considerable talent. His situation is a lot like Washington's Terry McLaurin, a great player in a below-average situation. I think that DJ Moore will produce similarly to what he's done in the past. The Detroit Lions are the trendy team for everyone in the football media. The Lions' offense was outstanding last year, and Jared Goff has emerged as a franchise quarterback. The Lions had the number 6 passing offense last year. In the weapons arsenal, the Lions have changed a few pieces around Jared Goff. Marvin Jones Jr. is back in Detroit after 2 decent years in Jacksonville. Sam Laporta was drafted near the top of the 2nd round at tight end. Jahmyr Gibbs was brought in to replace DeAndre Swift as the main pass-catching running back. The impact of 2nd-year wide receiver Jameson Williams is a major matter of speculation around the Lions right now. Williams came back from an ACL tear in college to play limited snaps with the Lions last year. As a rookie, Jameson was only on the field for 78 snaps. He graded fairly well with a 77 rating. The Lions tried to force-feed him the ball on deep throws, so his numbers don't really give you much of an indication of how good Williams can be. To make matters worse, no one will be able to find out until Week 7 because Jameson Williams will be suspended for the first 6 games of the season. In playing style, Jameson Williams is a pure deep threat. He's supposed to be able to run under a 4.3 40-yard dash, and his speed does show up when he's on the field. My biggest hang-up about Williams is that he only caught 1 of his 9 targets last year. Jared Goff completed 65.1% of his passes for the year, so I'm a little worried about Williams until he shows me that he can actually make plays at the NFL level. Jameson Williams is getting drafted as a stash play by drafters this year. In lineup leagues and PPR leagues, Jameson is not very valuable. But in best ball leagues, he has the capability of lighting it up for you later in the season. He's purely just a lottery ticket at this point of the year. If you have the roster spot available to hold on to him during the suspension, draft him late, but otherwise I do not recommend drafting Jameson Williams. Amon-Ra St. Brown has turned into an elite wide receiver in fantasy football. He is extremely consistent and he's a PPR fiend. He's the exact opposite of Jameson Williams. He wins by skill with average size and athleticism. Jared Goff relies on this guy when he needs a play to be made. Amon-Ra is possibly the best possession receiver in football. He caught an eye-popping 72.6 of the targets thrown to him last year. He gets open, Goff throws him the ball, and he catches it. Dependability at its finest. In PPR leagues, amon-ra St. Brown scored 16.3 points per game, which was the 12th best average in the league. Because he played the whole year, he was even higher in points scored for the year as the wide receiver 9. Amon-Ra is no longer a sleeper or value pick. Everyone wants this guy in fantasy football now. He is getting drafted either as the wide receiver 9 or the wide receiver 10. He's ranked as the wide receiver 8 by both Yahoo and ESPN. His ADP is in the 20 to 21 range, making him a consensus 2nd round pick. While I am a huge fan of St. Brown's game, and I love what he does in fantasy football, I'm not as bullish on him as I have been in the past. Amon-Ra tweaked an ankle in the preseason, and he hasn't practiced much. Anytime a guy is injured early, I stay away. Look at Matt Stafford's elbow and Najee Harris's foot last year. Both were huge busts compared to what people thought of them in the preseason. I also think that Amon-Ra's situation in Detroit is not necessarily as good for him this year as it has been in the past. It will be hard for him to match 146 targets this year. The new blood on the offense like Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Marvin Jones Jr., attract attention away from Amon-Ra St. Brown. Everyone but Jameson Williams' strength is in the short passing game, just like Amon-Ra's strength. With all of these factors, I'm fading St. Brown on my draft board, although I hate doing so. He is my wide receiver 16 and my player 37. Not bad spots, but much lower than where everyone else is ranking him. The Minnesota Vikings have an elite passing attack. They were 5th in the NFL in passing last year. Kirk Cousins is back at quarterback. Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson will be together for their first full season, and Jordan Addison was taken in the first round of the draft to complement Justin Jefferson. Addison was a very productive player at Pitt with Kenny Pickett, but his numbers dropped at USC with Caleb Williams. His size and speed at the combine were less than what was expected. In the preseason, he didn't play much. He caught 1 or 3 targets. He also was placed in the concussion protocol during the preseason. Addison is projected to be the wide receiver 2 and the replacement for Adam Thielen. That is an awful lot to ask for a guy who has been cooling off since Kenny Pickett left Pitt. I also believe that wide receiver 3, KJ Osborne, has the potential to outproduce Jordan Addison as a rookie. Jordan Addison is getting drafted as the wide receiver 39 on Yahoo and the wide receiver 44 on ESPN. His overall ADP is between 99 and 102. Adam Thielen was the wide receiver 39 in points scored and the wide receiver 52 in average points scored last year. I just don't see a rookie who has done nothing to distinguish himself in the preseason be able to come in and produce like a seasoned pro like Adam Thielen. The safer bet is just to stay away from Jordan Addison. Rookies struggle in this league. The smaller and the slower you are, the less likely you're going to produce. I also believe that once you're in concussion protocol, future concussions are coming. Too many red flags for me, plus I think that KJ Osborne is a good player. I rate Jordan Addison as my wide receiver 66 and my 167th player overall. If he's a dart throw wide receiver 6 on your roster in the last round, great. But if you draft Jordan Addison and think you're getting a young Adam Thielen, you'll be very disappointed. I rank Justin Jefferson as my number 2 player overall. I have no debates with you if you select him as your number 1 overall pick in the draft. The only player in the league who I believe in more this year than Justin Jefferson is Travis Kelce. My argument with Kelce is because of his position dominance at tight end is so much greater than the other top players at their positions. At wide receiver, it can be argued that Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, and others are close enough to Justin Jefferson where his advantage is not the same that Kelce enjoys. If you like today's coverage of the NFC North wide receivers, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.